It had been 14 days since Johnny Storm sacrificed himself, and the loss was still weighing heavily on everyone who loved him. High above New York City, Franklin Richards sat alone on the edge of the Baxter Building, quietly staring out across the skyline. The young boy looked exhausted and heartbroken. He had climbed to the rooftop simply to be alone with his thoughts, mourning the death of the uncle who had meant so much to him. As Spider-Man swung through Manhattan on patrol, he spotted Franklin sitting dangerously close to the edge. Recognizing Franklin immediately, he changed direction and landed silently behind him without making a sound. After a brief moment, Franklin noticed someone standing behind him. Without even fully turning around, he softly looked over his shoulder and simply said, "Hey." Spider-Man stepped closer and greeted Franklin before sitting beside him on the edge of the rooftop. Rather than trying to cheer him up right away, he gently asked how long he had been sitting here. Franklin admitted he had been there for quite a while because it was peaceful and quiet. It was clear he had come here because he wanted to be alone with his thoughts, away from everyone else. Understanding that Franklin didn't really want to talk, Spider-Man didn't push him. Instead, he simply offered his company, asking, "Sure. Mind if I hang out with you for a bit?" Franklin gave a small nod. "I guess not." The silence between them lasted for a while before Franklin finally found the courage to speak. Looking at him, he admitted that his Uncle Johnny had died. Spider-Man already knew, but hearing Franklin say it out loud made the loss feel even more real. He gently told Franklin that he was deeply sorry before asking, "So, how are you doing with all that?" Franklin confessed he wasn't doing well. Ever since Johnny's death, he hadn't been able to sleep, and his mind was constantly filled with bad thoughts. Spider-Man understood exactly what he meant because he had experienced the same kind of grief himself. Letting Franklin know he wasn't alone, Spider-Man admitted that he knew those feelings all too well, wanting to help the boy escape the sadness, even if only for a little while. Spider-Man stood up, held out his hand, and suggested that they go clear their heads together. Franklin takes Spider-Man's hand and the two leap off the roof, soaring over New York City together. Holding Franklin securely with one arm while swinging from building to building with the other, Spider-Man gives him a chance to get away from the rooftop and the painful thoughts that had been weighing on him. As they swing through the city, Spider-Man asks whether Franklin has eaten lunch. Franklin admits that he isn't really hungry. Spider-Man smiles and tells him that he's starving for a hot dog, but refuses to eat one unless Franklin joins him, jokingly saying not to make him beg. After hearing this, Franklin gives in with a quiet, "Okay." Spider-Man then announces, "Alright then, 2 hot dogs coming up." Spider-Man and Franklin stop at a nearby hot dog cart, but after checking his wallet, Spider-Man realizes he's $1 short and asks Franklin if he can borrow one. Once they have their hot dogs, the two climb back above the city, with Spider-Man sitting on a stone gargoyle while Franklin rests comfortably on webbing hanging below him. As they quietly eat, Spider-Man checks if the hot dog is any good, and Franklin gives a small nod. Wanting Franklin to know he truly understands what he's going through, Spider-Man says, "See, I know what I'm talking about. And I don't know if your mom or dad have told you this or not, but when I was younger, not your age, older, but still too young, I lost my uncle as well." He tells Franklin that they were as close as Franklin and Johnny were. He also lost an uncle he loved very much. Spider-Man then asked if Franklin knew that. Franklin responds with a no, but getting curious, he asks what happened. Spider-Man reveals that his Uncle Ben was killed during a robbery. The words leave Franklin visibly saddened. He simply looks down and tells Spider-Man that he's sorry. Spider-Man tells Franklin that he still thinks about Uncle Ben every single day. There isn't a single day that goes by without him remembering his uncle, but it doesn't make him sad anymore. He still wishes Ben were alive. He admits that he misses him terribly and always will, but explains that grief doesn't stay the same forever. As time passes, the painful memories slowly lose their grip, and the dark thoughts that keep you awake at night begin to fade. Eventually, he says, you find yourself thinking less about how they died and more about the good times you shared, the fun you had together, and how deeply you loved them. Those happy memories slowly become stronger than the sadness. Still hurting, Franklin asks how long it takes before that happens. Spider-Man gives him an honest answer instead of making false promises, telling him that it takes a while. Then, noticing a little ketchup on Franklin's face, Spider-Man changes the mood by pointing it out. Hanging upside down, he hands Franklin a napkin, and the boy wipes his face clean before thanking him. After another long silence, Franklin stares down, clearly wrestling with something he has been afraid to say out loud. Gathering the courage, he finally looks over at Spider-Man and asks if he can tell him a secret. Spider-Man immediately reassures Franklin that he can tell him anything. Franklin finally reveals the burden he's been carrying ever since Johnny died. He believes he could have stopped his Uncle Johnny from dying. Rather than dismissing the feelings, Spider-Man promises that he'll keep that secret, but asks if he can share one of his own. When Franklin quietly agrees, Spider-Man admits that he has carried the exact same guilt for years because he believes he could have stopped his own Uncle Ben from dying. Franklin is stunned to hear that and asks if Spider-Man really means it. Spider-Man confirms that he does. After a pause, Franklin asks the question that's been on his mind. Why didn't you? Spider-Man honestly explains that he was young. He didn't understand how important every decision could be or how one choice could have changed someone's life forever. He says he had to learn a painful lesson, that when you're lucky enough to have gifts like theirs, you can't put yourself first. You think about how lucky you are to have them, and how much other people need help. Because that's what Uncle Ben would have wanted for him, and it's exactly what Johnny Storm would want for Franklin. Spider-Man asks if he understands, and Franklin nods. Seeing that the message has reached him, Spider-Man holds out his hand, saying, Good. Now, hop on. I need to get you home. With Franklin safely holding on, Spider-Man gets ready to swing them back toward the Baxter building. After everything they had talked about, Franklin breaks the silence one last time and calls out to Spider-Man. When Spider-Man asks what it is, Franklin says there's one thing he's still wondering. What was your uncle's name? Spider-Man tells him that his name was Ben. The two continue their swing through New York together, with Franklin carrying not only the memory of Uncle Johnny, but also Spider-Man's lesson that grief takes time to heal, and that people they loved would want them to keep moving forward. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel.